You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. We today are jumping on because we have accumulated enough things to talk about. Actually, the main reason I wanted to jump on was to get the down low on the F1 fan survey, and one of the panel has done lots of work about it and looked into it so that you don't have to get into all the details. And I won't say who it is, but they may or may not have written a poem about the F1 fan survey. So we've also got some silly season speculation that I think we'll start on because it's really key. It's a key factor in the F1 season. Loads of it in the news at the moment with loads of moving parts. You'll get my reaction to Perez, rumoured to be joining Cadillac, and you'll get my opinion whether you like it or not because I have things to say. Let's see. Verstappen. Max met his little friend Toto over the weekend. They used to fight all the time, but now they seem to be willing to share their toys. Bottas has been on track. There's rumours about him and Alpine. And, of course, then we'll get into the survey stuff. And there's too much stuff, actually, to cover. But we will be jumping back on Sunday because me and Stuffy want to respond to the Mohammed Ben Sulayem talks about the future. And he's been saying, we need to move to V8s. We need to move to more spec series. So we'll cover that on Sunday. And there's a bunch of other news stories as well. Matt won't be here for Sunday, and he's shaking his head because he very vehemently disagrees with that. And you said, in fact, Matt, to Rumpets, you said that I would have to heavily censor an episode if you were on talking about that.
Indeed. He said some things that just simply made my brain hurt. The lack of forethought in what he was saying. I mean, honestly, if you have a cost gap and you can measure torque at the axle, why are you even bothering with anything other than a combined energy budget and let the teams build the cheapest, best engine that fits it? It's just, whole thing is nonsense.
We'll have a slightly less rant-filled version of that on Sunday for you. We're also joined by Christian Pedersen from Denmark. Hello, Christian.
Good afternoon.
Fan survey. You've been digging into it, and I'm glad you have. I started trying to read all the details, and I went, so much information. Like, it's a really in-depth fan survey, and I think it affects what we do at Missed Apex.
At least we can get some information about some of the areas, and also we have to remember it's actually paid for them, so it's also a bit of a commercial, I think.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we can peek behind the curtain and remain.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. So it doesn't say the bottom's falling out of our market because we've abandoned our existing audience. It says lots of positive and bubbly things, and people actually like it when one driver dominates for 3 years in a row. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But let's start off with silly season speculation because, we can say whatever we want because we're an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind support of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. Yeah, silly season rumors. And this is the risk with this kind of show, is that then some story comes out tomorrow. So I'm sorry about that. If the Verstappen deal gets signed or denied like tomorrow, then a lot of the speculation is worthless. Same with Perez and Bottas and the Alpine situation as well. But yeah, all interesting stuff to talk about and is starting to whet my appetite and make me excited about next season already. We've got Perez, Verstappen and Bottas are the main speculation points here, as well as Russell. If you kind of, for now, go with the speculation that Russell would be the one to go out and that if Verstappen is to sign for Mercedes. I want to start with Perez, though, because I felt a lot of vindication when Perez left and everyone for like 4 years had been saying, yeah, look, he's rubbish. He's had another shot at the top team and nowhere near Verstappen. Yet there were moments when he was fine. There was wins at Monaco. There was 2 starts to a season where he looked pretty good. And then things developed away from him. And you go, you can't have a driver just going from all that success in the midfield, actually looking pretty handy against Verstappen occasionally, to then suddenly just have his form drop off a cliff. And then come 2024 was just absolutely nowhere. And then we saw it with Lawson. Obviously, I think less of a surprise to me with Lawson because I thought the wrong driver had been promoted. But we saw Yuki Tsunoda have a really great start to the season. He was doing well. Everyone was praising Tsunoda. There was no doubt in anyone's mind Tsunoda was driving well and had been driving well. Goes to that Red Bull, is struggling, can't find his way around the car. So when all that was happening, to me, that's clearly redemption for Perez. But in the same way that I failed to admit to Matt that Albon might have been a victim of these kind of things, no one is accepting that actually Perez was the victim of some strange situation in the second seat. Now, yeah, fair enough. He's getting on a bit. He's getting into his 30s. But there is a good chance that he goes to Cadillac and this is his redemption tour. So first of all, we have to ask the token American, is this a good move for Cadillac?
Well, of the available legacy drivers, I'll just call them that because they have enough Formula One experience across enough different regulation sets. Yeah, it was between him and Bottas. Hulkenberg was already nailed down. Magnussen's not interested. And those would really be the four most likely available. So yeah, Perez has results. He has things, especially tires, that he's been good at the past. And, you know, he would certainly be someone who could, and I will call specifically on his plunge in performance in the Red Bull, he would be someone who would make sure you design a car that would be sort of vanilla with a good balance that could be driven by, say, a rookie or someone less familiar with the series. So in that sense, it's good. But you got to ask yourself, was he the first choice or was he the only one left? And that's something we don't know yet.
I'm going to take it from the commercial side. I think America is, we talk about it as South and North America, but from a commercial point of view, I think of America as one. And he brings a lot of money and he brings a lot of fans. He brings a lot of just automatic support from the get-go. Also, he has the credentials to prove it. He's a very nice guy. He's very well liked. For a team as Cadillac, I think he would come for the right amount of money, or with the right amount of money, and with the right amount of commercial basis, if you could say that way. So he's up there as one of the big candidates.
He's long been a midfield team's dream, really, hasn't he? Coming in with that money and able to get results. So let's not forget, 9 podiums and a win in a team that was, that isn't Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. I don't, and McLaren now. But I don't know another driver who's got that midfield record. A lot of drivers who've hung around in the midfield haven't had that amount of success. You've had maybe the odd race where they popped up, and obviously you had, 2012 where everyone won a race, and then you had some fluky results like Ocon winning that race at Hungaroring in crazy conditions. Matt's triggered.
Yeah, you're trying to provoke me, but we've actually all agreed now that he's had multiple podiums, that was not just a one-off. That was actually a pretty good race. Actually, it was a great race with Vettel behind him. It was genuinely filled with tension the whole time.
He fought like a lion. Yeah. So, but Perez is in that field of people who can, long established, can get a result. And the reason I'm goading you is because Van Gien was goading me. As soon as that announcement was made, I wasn't going to name him. Someone in our group chat, who I'm not going to name, straight away he was like, why does Cadillac want to fail? Why do they want a mid-driver? And you go, right, I feel like people aren't accepting the case of the second Red Bull seat and still are not applying it to drivers and going, we should not count that in our vision of Perez's overall form. And I still think he can go to what I'll optimistically call a midfield team and do a job. But is there any point? I think Perez is actually quite a divisive character. I think loads of people, possibly because he's got such an active and forthright fan base, lots of people just have this dialed in attack mode when it comes to Perez. And by some people, I specifically mean Alex Van Gien, who was not invited on this show to talk about this topic. I think, like, what's he got to do at Cadillac? Be on top of his teammate, produce the odd result, and I think probably for Cadillac, jumping into the points will feel like a podium. If he starts coming in and doing that, I'm going to call them the haters. Are we ever going to get the haters, Christian, turning around and going, do you know what? Maybe it was just that second Red Bull seat.
Wouldn't you say they are already agreeing to that? Wouldn't you say we are already at the point where they had a car which was, or have a car that's not good enough, but if you tweak it the right way, only one man is possible of doing that, by the way. But if you do that, then you can get it to go like P1, P2, but it's not a good car at the moment. But I do want to ask you one thing, Spanners.
Yes.
I have two questions, actually.
Yeah.
The first question is, explain to us, and maybe in as few words as possible, what's with the Perez love? Where does it come from? And secondly, who's going to drive alongside him?
Okay, so it was secondhand because I was originally a Kobayashi fan. You know, cut short.
So Sauber times.
Yeah. We were,
okay.
me and Matt were really, you know, we were gunning for.
We were huge Kobayashi fans.
And then
I agree with you.
His funding. I just thought they were exciting. They were an exciting driver pairing. You know, so this is years ago, and Kobayashi lost his funding, and then he did like a crowd support thing where he say, "Oh, chip in." I think he raised like $1 million, but it wasn't enough to get an F1 seat. So he said, "Well, okay, I couldn't raise the funds for an F1 seat, but I am keeping all that, by the way." And I guess he used that to go and race in other places. But then with Perez, what I just loved was that he would eke a result out. So there were times where he just outperformed the natural order, and that would be through strategy, through tyre strategy, through tyre saving, and he could just pull something out of the bag. And I just thought he was.
Are you thinking Malaysia, possibly? Malaysia against Alonso in the Ferrari?
Well, you remind me. I don't have an encyclopedic.
That was he almost won that race in the Sauber, Perez, which was his first like huge F1 race, and he almost won over the Ferrari in the Sauber.
And there was a pole position at some point as well where they had a front row lockout. Those guys.
Yeah.
So and it was good, but I think it was then taking a shot at McLaren, was it? Yeah, and thinking, that didn't quite feel like a fair shake of the stick. That was with Button as his teammate there, and I think that was very much Jenson Button's team. And then the second opportunity he had at a top team, very, very much Max Verstappen's team.
I think it's really important to remember, if we're going to talk correctly or with the correct context about Perez, how bad McLaren were with rookies. They trashed Magnussen, who started off with a podium for them in a single year. They did the same to Perez. They were just epically poor at dealing with rookies. And I don't know if that's just a result of Lewis Hamilton or what, but they did not have the kid gloves to get the most out of them.
Yeah, but I think it was actually that McLaren season. That's when I was like clicked in to go, right, I'm now gunning for Perez. And then once you do that, you just become a swivel-eyed loon, and they can do no wrong. And everything they do badly isn't their fault, and everything they do well was godlike, and there was no possible way that anyone else could have done it. So that's the why of it. And then it's just like a war because Brad and Alex basically, I think they want to slag off Perez more to upset me than anything else, and it works, damn you. So let's get some good results at Cadillac. I think we're going to learn quite a few things from next season, and I'm very much going on the assumption at this point that Verstappen is going to Mercedes to partner Antonelli. So what we'll see there is, it would be more interesting if he was up against Russell, which was a known quantity. We'd learn more if he was up against Russell. Is the Mercedes going to suddenly change tack to go, right, we need to develop this car around Verstappen? Because technically, I don't think they'll be allowed to speak to him this season. So they'd have to guess. I mean, I don't know what they talk about in private, but contractually, it would be a sort of like effectively a little bit of gardening leave, but he's still in the car. It's not like he can cross over and help them develop the 26 car. So there'll be a period of time where he sat there talking to the engineers. They're learning what he likes and what he doesn't like. And it will take time to develop the car towards Verstappen. And with the amount of money he's on, I'm sure they will. So I think then you'd get a situation like you've got at Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton, where currently that car is not developed towards what Lewis Hamilton wants. But you have to think, with the amount of money they've spent, part of the plan was, we're going to start developing the 2026 car towards you, or at least get your input. So if we'd have seen Verstappen against Russell there, we'd start to learn if these theories about very driver-specific cars are correct. If you suddenly saw him go there and you go, oh, actually, in a car that's kind of been built towards Russell, he looks like, probably I bet he'd beat Russell, but not with the kind of gap he's had to the five previous drivers. So we'd learn a lot there, and obviously we'd learn something about Perez if he was to say go up against a Bottas or a known entity like someone well fancied. Sorry, Matt, and then Christian.
Well, I was going to say, really, the interesting thing about watching people, and you mentioned Lewis going to teams at the end of a regulation set, is that sort of concept is it's that car has been so baked. There's not a ton of wiggle room to adjust it for his particular predilections. Whereas Max moving at the start of a regulation set to Mercedes is really going to let him stamp his authority all over that team.
Yeah, but not in year one.
I think, very much in year one, because I wouldn't expect the driver to be doing a lot of simulation and feedback work till like around November. And you have an entire season where the engineers are simply chasing gremlins. So over the course of that regulation set, that car is going to be absolutely pointed towards where Max wants it to be. And if they know this is happening, they're going to design as neutral a car as possible so that they can tweak it to their driver's preference. In fact, really, if they're smart, they'll make the lightest car possible with the most neutral balance and worry about everything else down the road. But that's just my advice to Mercedes, because, like, I know what I'm doing sitting here in my little office on the couch.
Armchair tech dev is fine. Like, this is allowed. It's a feature. It's not a bug of mistake. Oh, you're just a bunch of armchair Yeah, literally, that's fine.
I want to add a thing because I think there's a misunderstanding that cars are actually, let's say, developed for driver per se. I think the driver aspect of the development comes in a lot later than we tend to think, as Matt was just pointing out. But I also think that the car is the car. The car is what you got and what you're going to work with. Then you can do preferences. In Red Bull's incident, the Red Bull car at the moment, I think, of course, you're going to listen to a guy like Max. You're going to listen to how's your driving preferences and what do you prefer and what can make you go fast. Of course, you're going to listen to that. But you're always gonna be limited in what you can do for a driver just in basic limits from the car.
I think me and Matt are both going to slightly disagree. My quick pushback is, would Ferrari be running that brake system right now if Hamilton had been with them for 3 years? So I think there's a key way where you can select.
Okay, let me add one point then. Remember a couple of years ago when the Mercedes, they were both drivers were saying that it felt like sitting on the front axle driving it.
Yeah.
A thing like that, of course you're going to change that because you need to change that. It's just way too big of a thing. And then you can go into suspension preferences or stuff like that in maybe car year 2 or whatever. But you're never gonna bring in the drivers in the first meeting or the second meeting or third meeting or the fourth or fifth meeting.
What I really love here is that we're talking about Max and we're talking about car preferences and we're talking about how important the driver is. And I'm just going to say that Max has been complaining about the current Red Bull for at least a year and a half. And you know what they haven't done?
Yeah.
They haven't fixed it for him at all. Now, have they? They have their idea of what's working and they're chasing that. And they're pretty much ignoring Max going, well, yeah, I know I'm getting good lap times, but guys, this car is like not great to drive. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, Max, just keep driving it fast. We know what we're doing here.
Wait, since when? Since Adrian did what? I'm sorry, since when?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it really does show that even the very best drivers are going to have only a minimal influence on the overall direction of car design. And most of that is going to be down to, okay, we've designed the car. What adjustments can we make to give you more confidence or, give you what you feel like you're lacking to get more time out of it?
Do you know what? I'm really leaning towards the other way. Obviously, I don't think none of us have developed an F1 car, but I bet the driver's in fairly early. I think they have a driver in mind. I would wonder, I think it changes the philosophy of the team a little bit when you know that a driver's got a particular style. And obviously that does change over time. But the other thing that could be happening with the Red Bull is that Max has been asking for what he thinks he wants. Like every kid thinks he wants more Easter eggs and more chocolate. And then you throw up all over your dad's bed and he's pretty upset about that. But as far as you you just wanted more chocolate, and it's kind of their fault for just giving me as much chocolate as I said I wanted. Okay, that was a bit too specific. Yeah, so maybe they just kept giving Max a pointer and pointy car, and now he's like, hey, this is undrivable, but we're giving you what you said you wanted.
For people who are really interested in how this go about, when we get new regulations that we are going to do here by January 1st, 26, you're going to build a car from a set of rules and specifications, and all that is done through building boxes that you can operate within. If you're interested in that stuff, the guy called Kyle Engineering just launched a new series where he started building the 26 cars just in the boxes. And if you just follow his first video, he's actually just showing you how he's building it up with all the boxes defined where the operating room you have to work with.
Right.
And that is how the Formula One car is built initially. And then you go from there. And that is very, very interesting watching if you're interested.
This is great. I didn't see the chat going this way, but we'll allow it. We'll allow it. Matt?
Yeah, so I just got to add, Kyle Engineers was an aerodynamics engineer for Mercedes. Right, okay. So it's context as to why that would be worth looking at. He's built out the legality boxes, and he's going to be going through the potential aerodynamics of it. And I think Wes in the chat makes a very good point about Mercedes in this car. He says with Max in the car, they'll have to build it for combat.
Have to build it for combat. I use that so much. What are we going to do?
I could not say it.
How are we going to solve this problem? Got to fight them in the turns. Yeah. So that is a long tangent that we've just gone on there. But I think we'll learn a lot, by the drivers moving around. And we've had such a long period of Verstappen just dispatching these second drivers or using them to shield from his enemies, like Rick uses a shield of Morty's to make him undetectable. Sorry, season 8, Rick and Morty. But then if we finally see him not in that environment, I still think he's the best driver on the grid right now. But we are going to see a difference. I can't if he goes to Mercedes in this car before they have a chance to really do it in his style to how he wants it, and he still dunks on, say, Russell by six tenths of a second in the odd qualifying, and one's at the back of the grid and one's at the front of the grid, then you kind of go, oh, okay, there's something phenomenal going on here. But if it's more normal, if it's more like how Hamilton was on top of Bottas generally, or had the edge over Rosberg, then you kind of go, oh, okay, that really kind of tells us a lot about this Red Bull situation with the second seat.
I know we're off on a bit of a tangent here, but you said a lot of things when you started this.
No, I didn't.
You said stuff like, Verstappen is not going to drive in a team with Russell. He's going to drive it. And so what?
Yeah.
And you said stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah. I think we do. We've done enough on Perez now, haven't we? Let's go to the hypothetical situation then. Let's say that Verstappen has agreed a deal and he's going to be with Mercedes at the start of 2021. 2021, oh my God. At the start of 2026. Right. So the question is, who would they get rid of? I don't think that Toto Wolff actually has any reputation for making the right driver signings at the moment. Hamilton wasn't his, right? So he can't really take any credit for that success. He was Bottas's manager, I think, which is why Bottas came to Mercedes. Now, Bottas, fine driver, didn't do it at the very top level because Bottas had a championship winning car for 3 seasons. So there was 3 seasons where there was a championship on the line. He had the championship winning car. By his own admission, just could not match the consistency of Lewis Hamilton. And so often in that first stint, maybe he'd get a pole, maybe he'd get a better start against Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton would sit beside him out of the aero wash, wait for Bottas to chew his tyres, and then overtake. And it happened race after race after race. So that is like a semi-fail, really, for Wolff. And then he signed Russell and Antonelli, right? So Russell...
He's always been managing Russell, hasn't he?
There you go. So yes, Russell... See, even Jensen Button wrote an article recently about, look what he did against Hamilton. That shows how good he is. But when we're watching those races, this is not a defense on Hamilton. Hamilton was qualifying poorly. And that could be because Hamilton's not great at qualifying anymore. That's fine. This is not about Lewis Hamilton. This is about how Mercedes see Russell. If you then watch those races, Hamilton's race pace was better for most of those 3 years, right? And that's not to say, oh, Hamilton's great and that's excusing the results. That's to say, if you're then looking at, we're left with Russell and his race pace has not been as good, that means you're leaving something on the table if Russell is then your top driver. So Russell's the top driver now this season, doing great. But if that's not in their mind, that, he didn't seem to have that overall race pace against Hamilton, then why are they going after Verstappen? If they think he's nailing it this season, there's absolutely no reason to go for Max Verstappen, or maybe commercially. But do you know what I mean? So I think in their minds, they know that Russell isn't that top driver that they want. They've gambled on Antonelli in the future. They've heavily said, they used that as the reason. They used it as the reason for letting Hamilton go, because they didn't give Hamilton the contract he wanted. And they said, well, we missed out on Verstappen. We're not missing out on Antonelli. At the moment, I would say, Christian, Toto Wolff has no track record of signing a great driver.
Do you remember when you were in 9th grade? There was a girl, there was this girl from the other class, and you were so in love, and you never got to date her. Then you meet her at 35, right? You're going to be like,
and she's even more beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And that is how Toto feels about Max Verstappen. They almost had him. He was in the Mercedes camp, right? Until they couldn't serve him the car, and then just Red Bull took over. So I think that plays a giant role. Also, he's a phenomenon at this point in Formula One, I'd say. Matt?
If you look at his performance in that Red Bull, it's inarguable. He's the best driver on the grid across all disciplines, qualifying and race. Doesn't mean he doesn't have weaknesses, but he's the only driver of this generation to win championships, and he won them back to back. And just, whatever pressure there might have been seems to just roll off him in a way that you really want that championship mind. So I think he's a no-brainer for Mercedes, even if they think Russell could do the exact same thing. Russell hasn't done that yet. And so if you have an option to get Max, who has proven he can do the thing and clearly has the talent, well, I mean, it's not like it's like getting rid of your Mercedes and getting like the AMG hypercar. It's like, well, yeah, you had a good car, but look at what you could get with the right amount of money.
I just don't see the Jos Wolff situation going very well. I don't see that going on at all. I don't see the Verstappen-ish way of going about racing fitting in the Mercedes garage at all. The Mercedes Sport and Jos Verstappen are just, that's black and white. That is
both sides.
Wet and dry.
Both sides of that party, they'll go, we don't want to work this way. We don't want to do this. Yeah, but money? Oh, money. Oh, right. Why didn't you say? Okay, yeah, we'll adapt. Money and championships. Okay, okay. Yeah, you're right. But I think, the grown-ups make the grown-up decision, and there's less of a personal factor. So with Horner, I think it was very, 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 very personal. Here, it's like a professional. He was the rival. You have to say, like, this is a marriage made in heaven. Like, this is prom queen and prom king hooking up, isn't it? This is, if you're Toto Wolff and you're Mercedes, Verstappen is the absolute right pick right now. Especially if you think you're going to be the prettiest girl at the ball at the 2026 prom. And for Max Verstappen, it looks like a sinking ship that he'd be leaving to go to the manufacturer that seems to have the best engine. So everybody's making the right decisions here, I think. There's no doubt, is there?
Do you remember when Hamilton aborted from having his dad doing all the management stuff?
Yeah,
we could see that happening in regards to this deal, if this deal is made. We could see a Max Verstappen join Mercedes as Max Verstappen only, and you're sitting back at the couch in Holland.
And I'm just going to go in general, I think the very professional and corporate structure of the Mercedes race team will neutralize a lot of the potential conflicts you could see with Jos there. I don't think it's going to be the thing, because the team itself is set up to not have the same kind of problems we saw happen at Red Bull.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And also, they're older. And this is the thing with Hamilton as well. He went into Mercedes as a one-time world champion, but still relatively junior. By the time it came to negotiating that final contract, he was trying to negotiate that as a superstar. And then you move into Ferrari, and I think he's probably got more of a voice at Ferrari than he had at Mercedes. So when you move, it's a real reset. So I think they cross that barrier, they move across as a team, and they don't go into it with any of the baggage of how they manage stuff or any of the relationships even that they had. And I think they'll just look at the massive, massive paycheck that Verstappen is bound to be collecting. He's bound to be collecting like a game-changing amount of money. They're gonna make him the highest paid driver, of course. So that'll be part of the, what's Hamilton getting? Right, I want at least 20% more than that. And so they're going to break the bank for him. And they go, okay, but look, it means fitting into this corporate structure, blah, blah, blah. And they're just looking at the check and going, yeah, that corporate structure, I guess, sounds fine. But yeah, I haven't paid any attention to the Max and Jos Verstappen personal stuff, really. I've heard it in the background, those kind of relationships. Same with the Anthony Hamilton stuff as well. It's not a massive part of what draws me in. I'll see it if they're specifically talking about it. But I did see a cut up of all the different times Max has talked about his relationship with his dad. It was stuff like saying to Ricardo, "Oh yeah, my dad once poked a mechanic with a fork," and so that stuff was all new to me, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, that explains Max a lot."
It does.
Yeah. So yeah. But also Max is like a full grown up now. He's still really young though, isn't he?
He is. He's a dad now.
Yeah, there you go. So you're naturally going to start calling the shots a little bit more. So I think the reason is that Russell is going for me is you can't go back and swallow your pride about Antonelli, because they said that Antonelli was basically this generation's Verstappen coming in, and that's why they couldn't give up on him. So that does leave Russell high and dry, and all that stuff at the beginning of the season of, oh, I'm not worried about the contract. We're going to sit down and talk about it. We're in no rush. And I think it was fairly normal of Mercedes to do things like that. Hamilton's contracts weren't signed until late in the year, but then he was giving those interviews about, well, Toto said that I'm pretty good, so basically any other team will have me. You could see the change in his pitch of like, oh, I'll try and find the interview. It was a couple of races ago. You could see the moment where he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm cooked. I need another team."
The final little straw on this, it's on Horner, because what Horner did was trying to get them some sort of a majority in Red Bull, right? When he started that infight in the family stuff, and that was to be the new Toto. He wanted what Toto had, right? And now Toto was taking his drive, and he got fired. So you got yourself a Hollywood movie here.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a Rush about this, isn't there? There's going to be a version of this about Rush.
Hopefully.
Okay, so let's play Armchair Team Bosses or Armchair Russell's agent. Who's our first phone call to? Who are we calling to get a seat for Russell? Back to Williams. Back to Williams is call number A.
And signs to Red Bull?
No, well, actually, the more simple one. Oh gosh, this really is silly season. The more simple one for me is you go and take Albon's seat. That is a massive problem though, because aren't they legit best mates?
They're pretty good friends,
yeah,
I'd say. But I could not see Williams get rid of Albon. Could not see that.
A very quick one on Albon. I'm really sorry, but I saw him give an interview.
Always a very quick one on Albon from you, Spanish.
It's a very right. It was funny. This is Albon being hilarious, but unintentionally. So he gave an interview about a week ago, and he was saying, "Oh, a friend of mine was talking about buying a yacht," and he was mocking it and saying, but then he realised he needed a smaller yacht because his yacht was too big, so he needed like more of a daily yacht. I just need a kind of an everyday yacht. And then it came out in the headlines for whatever reason, Russell buys new yacht. So he was sitting there just slating Russell's yacht selection. Sorry, Matt.
I love Albon.
Well, I mean, here's your problem, and here's your interest. Signs to Red Bull kind of makes sense because he did start out in their stable of drivers. And if we think about Red Bull, what comes to mind is all of their past success. Amazing aerodynamics, capable of winning races even when they didn't have the best power unit. Amazing strategy. And so you'd think for Carlos Sainz, having been unceremoniously kicked out of Ferrari, it would be a return to the top. But then you look at the very current situation at Red Bull, with a completely unknown power unit and the first one they've ever built. And they've not built any for any feeder series either. This is like, oh, we're going to start at the very top with a power unit. That's a pretty dubious proposition. If I'm Carlos Sainz, I'm like, talk to me about 2027, guys. And I think that shuts down the only possible opening at Williams for Russell, where it would be a good fit. He's been there before. However, Red Bull might very much want to get their hands on Russell as the best easily available property and probably get him cheaper, plus a bunch of Mercedes knowledge in his head. The other way he could go is the other team that we talked a lot about.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
no, go on. You should have. I will describe for the listeners Spanner's face when he knew what I was about to say. Looked like a child whose Christmas present just got taken away from him by an adult.
You were about to move on for the topic, and I had more on Williams. But
no, go ahead then.
No, now my point's all squashed. Like Carlos Sainz leaving Williams, to me, I would say that means that Williams will eventually rise to the top and win a championship, because he got bumped out of the Red Bull program. They went on to be dominant for several years and win lots of championships. He left Ferrari and he left McLaren. They won a championship and looks like they're going to win a drivers' championship this year. He left Ferrari and Lewis is going to win his 8th title there next year, 2026. And so he could end up being the worst transferring driver of all time. You could look back on his career and say, how many teams did you leave that then went on to win championships? That's my small point.
If I was the Sainz family, I would be writing the letter demanding an apology right now for missed Apex.
Where else do you think Russell might go, Matt?
Well, I think this is the interesting one. Aston. Because there was a lot of talk about Max going to Aston for the new regulation set. And now, obviously, if Max goes to Mercedes, he can't go to Aston. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to grab somebody who's, shall we say, a little less past their expiration date than Alonso.
Yeah.
While I would maybe think that could be some truth to that, the recent tire test with Stroll for the 26 tire has me a bit perplexed. Why would you take Stroll do a 26 tire test if he won't drive the car next year?
Oh, no, I don't think it's Stroll. I think Alonso is going to move into an ambassador role and do more WEC and stuff like that. We've seen him start to express that frustration on the radio that has been absent before. So I could see a move in a new regulation set to bring in a younger driver to sort of steer the team, because, realistically, is he going to make it a whole nother regulation set? No, he's not. No. So it makes a lot of sense to get somebody in the team now. And suddenly Russell is potentially available, who, not Max, but the next best thing to Max that you easily can grab on the open market.
Yeah, but then Alonso's got that cursed thing as well, hasn't he? So he left McLaren and they won a championship.
Yeah.
They won the next one. And then he left Ferrari, and Vettel should have picked up the championships in 17 and 18. Left McLaren. McLaren then had their resurgence. God, he's had some bad ones as well. No, you've got to hang on for the regulation set. The whole point in putting up with these last few years was to get hold of that 2026 car. That was the whole point. He's got to cling on. Surely one more year. And I think that'll be the year he'll think, yeah, we pop to the top. I steer this team to the championship, and then I drift off into the distance, walking away, head held high, number 3.
So what are we saying? No seat for Russell?
No seat for Russell at Aston Martin. So I think he ends up, and this links into what you wanted to talk about, is he ends up at Alpine with Bottas. Or instead of Bottas.
Okay, maybe. I mean, if I was Alpine, I'd take Russell over Bottas. But they have an opening now, not next season.
Yeah.
I don't see Russell Flavio. No, it's not going to happen.
But the point is, I think I started off, and in fact, I did a TikTok saying a lot of teams would feel lucky to have Russell. So I think he's a top get. I don't know how much he's got in terms of sponsorship. That's an issue. I don't know if he carries a ton of sponsorship. He seemed like the closest we have to a kind of a talent hire. There's not a lot of talent hires, like pure talent hires. but he seems to be one. So that'll be his problem. So maybe Red Bull would be one where they go, okay, well, let's just do a swap then.
What I do believe is Toto will be the one making that contract or approaching the other team on behalf of Russell, which makes all this so weird.
Excellent. Should we move on from silly season for now, Matt? Unless you wanted to talk about the Bottas test, because I wasn't aware of this.
Well, yeah, and this is the reason why Bottas has suddenly re-entered the chat is because Mercedes has taken their previous car, which I will just remind everyone who doesn't remember, that's going to be a 23 car or older, 23 to the beginning of the regulation set. And he spent the last 2 days at Jerez running mega amounts of laps. And you got to ask yourself, why would he be doing that? I mean, he is their test and reserve driver, so maybe, but you only get so many of those a year, even in the previous cars. And you usually would want to use them mostly for your rookies and stuff like that, because you're not testing a current car. It's not like an FP1 where your sim driver is going, oh yeah, no, this feels different in the sim, this feels different in the sim, this feels different in the sim. This is the kind of testing you do before you get back into a current Formula One car and start racing again. He's not a rookie. So it kind of does suggest that maybe Wolf has sealed the Alpine deal for Bottas and left the door open for Perez at Cadillac. Nothing confirmed, pure rank speculation here.
It does all line up.
That's the best kind, isn't it?
It does all line up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it lines up and you've got Alpine moving to the Mercedes engine. That means you can give a bit of a discount for your driver who you have a previous relationship with. Wolf manages that, and he's, of course, the Mercedes team boss. That's great, actually. And then that does coincide with the news articles reporting Perez to Cadillac as well. So he was the second choice, you reckon? Yeah, Bottas first choice. Yeah, but that's also, that dooms Colapinto then, if that's happening now. I think the writing's been on the wall there. So has he either ran out of chances or funding?
Wasn't it Austria that doomed him?
I think it was a car doomed him. It's not the best, if I'm being honest. And he is very much a rookie in a lot of ways. And that car does not look a treat to drive.
Oh, good. Well, fun chat. I cannot wait for news stories to drop this evening or before I've even published this.
Proving all of us wrong, yeah.
Just render all of that crap. That is the risk, but I think we've just got to take it. I mean, we've got clips from the live show coming up in the next few days, and I just know that a lot of that chat is going to be out of date. So I'm just going to go, just listen to it in the context of here's what these idiots thought a week and a half ago and enjoy that. But we want to know what us idiots think, what us fans think. Christian, you surprised me with a message saying there's been this F1 survey, and I actually think it's interesting. So this is going to be a hard sell. Tell us and the listeners why we should care about this F1 fan survey.
First of all, I'm going to say, back in the days when you did surveys on how many people are watching this TV show and this radio show, yada, 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 that was before the digital age where you can basically monitor it. Back then, you had, if you ask 1,000 people, if you go ask 1,000 people, you are more or less guaranteed a somewhat precise result, no matter how many people watched it. So as soon as you are around 1,000 participants, you're assured a somewhat realistic result. This survey was fans who were already fans. This is people who are interested in participating. It's proactive participation, as we call it. But
so hang on. Well, you could say self-selecting.
That is, I said proactive participation sounds better Spanish, and you know it.
Okay. So this self-selecting crowd of people said what?
But more than 100,000 people participated in this.
That's a lot. That's huge.
That is a lot. That is huge. It is. And what you get here is a proof picture. You can trust what they are saying to you, but you always have to have in mind that they are already proactive fans. They are already in it. They have chosen to participate, right? But anyway, around half of the 100,000 people who participated is from Europe. Around 25% is from the US, 13% Asia, 12% the rest of the world. 185 different countries have participated here. The average age for men are 37. The average age for women are 30. Now that's out. So
Okay, but that's
But
of the people that took the survey, not percentages of F1 fans. Okay,
Exactly.
go on then.
This has nothing to do with how many fans Formula One has. It has nothing to do with how the general fan thinks. This has to do with how the fan who participated in this survey think, right? But it's still very interesting reading. Anyway, let's go ahead. 1 in 4 in this survey is women, which is the first time ever in Formula One. About 10 years ago, when you did a survey like this, about 10% would be women. Now it's 74% makes up the participants in this survey, which is, I cannot believe that number. So
you definitely see it in the grandstands, especially in America. It was far more women in the stands, and we see it in our forums as well, in our Patreon Discord. There's a lot of women there, especially compared to when we first started. And I remember a while ago, YouTube gave me the stat that 99% of our audience was male, but that was maybe back in 2014, 2015. But it has changed. Men behave differently when there's women around. Our Discord server, I would say, is a nicer place to be because
I have to correct myself.
Definitely noticed a massive difference.
I have to correct myself because it's 1/4 of everyone who participated that are women. But in the new fans that have been fans less than a year, 75% of them are women.
That is massive.
So it's still magical numbers, right?
That is insane.
It is.
3/4 of new fans in the past year are women.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also you have to think about there was not many men left probably because 5 years ago it was.
Oh, they got all the low-hanging fruit. Is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So
let me just say, if you ask the legacy fans, for instance, the top motivators for following F1 between the legacy fans, number 1, I've been a fan since childhood. Number 2, love the thrill of the races and the speed. Number 3, enjoy the innovation and technology. If you ask women, they love the thrill of the races and the speed as number 1. Number 2 is the drivers. They're fans of drivers. Number 3, they enjoy the strategy behind the sport. So it's a more academical approach to the sport, which also surprised me.
Yeah. Why, Christian? Why did that surprise you, Christian?
No, but shouldn't it be the other way around if you look at universities and stuff like that? Here you have this new group of women coming in and they are all interested in the innovations, in the drivers, all the good things about Formula Ones.
I think I did pick up that there's a lot more interest in the drivers now. So we know the entire grid. We know everything about them. We know who their partners are. We know who their pets are. And as Meg Schuster always says to me over on the Ringer F1, she always talks about the storylines, and she says, there's some really great storylines this week. And what are you on about storylines? It's a sport. You should know how hard they can kick the ball and vaguely where they live. And this is the thing I point to. 20 years ago, ask people how many team principals they could name. Obviously, it's a bit harder now because it's like a revolving door. But we didn't know any of the team principals' names, and you maybe knew half the grid. What did I say at the quiz? One of the quiz questions was spell not Jamie. Alguersuari. What's his first name?
Jamie.
Jaime
Alguersuari.
It's pronounced Jaime. Yeah.
Jaime, yeah. But I was like, spell his surname, and one person got it. Because back then, we just didn't have the same intimate knowledge of the entire grid.
But look at Ocon's race. What's it called? Race direct, not race director. The one in Ocon's ears.
Yeah,
Laura
race
Miller.
engineer. Yeah.
Look at all the focus on her on race weekends. It's just blowing up. Sorry, Matt.
No, I was going to say, and you're talking about some really great stuff with the drivers, because this was per the survey, which I completely read, totally all of it, I swear.
That's why we've got Christian. We've got Christian here to read it for us.
I know. This is thank goodness we have someone who feels about surveys the way I feel about tires. Is that in fact this was an intentional strategy by Liberty to center the drivers and create what I think they called emotional equity for the fans. And this already tracks with what we found anyway whenever we talk to our listeners, which is that most of them tend to be more into a driver or a couple of drivers than they are a team or any other single thing. And Liberty correctly identified that and made it a deal, and it has worked an absolute treat to get new people in. But I do love the strategy. The new fans and the women coming in are really fixated on strategy. And I love that because it really allows for a deeper appreciation of the whole sport.
And the F1 movie, no spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers, right?
No spoilers.
All I'll say is that the strategy...
Does it end well? Does it end well? Can you...
I think the whole film's great. I haven't rewatched it. The test will come in the rewatching because I watched it without my son. I watched it with my daughter who liked it. So I'm going to go watch it again with the lad. It's long. It's long, though. I know when to go and go to the bar, though. I know when to take a break to go to the bar. But strategy featured heavily in that. And I don't think they'd have done that if they'd have said, right, the fans don't care. You know, I think people do understand strategy. And I single-handedly take credit for making everyone watch the live timings. And by the way, I watched the race live with Matt. And, you know, there was some yelling because at the start, Matt, you lost the internet on your laptop. We were watching it on the TV, but you lost the live timing. And for you, It felt like you weren't watching the race anymore. And I was like, Matt, just look at the screen. For God's sake, look at the actual screen. Because you can watch the whole race on the live timings, and it's pretty entertaining.
I do the same. It's more than half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Go on. Sorry, Matt. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, because I have a particular trick where I like to set the live timing slightly ahead of the race. So I can see it happen on the timing and then look up and watch it happen on the screen. And that's just a me thing.
No,
so that's why I was bugged out. That, and then you always ask me these questions later on that I have to be answer. I have to answer, and I can't without looking at the live timing.
But your favorite commentary and live timing, I mean, it's a pretty good way to watch any sport. I mean, I've listened to loads of sport on radio. In the Falkland Islands, the big sport is darts, and they will have darts on the radio, and you just hear thud, 20, thud, double, triple 20. And then you know, polite applause from the pub. Pub darts is a massive sport over there. So
I'm going to give you the top motivators for following F1 among survey respondents in Gen Z.
Gen Z. Okay, I need to know what Gen Z is first. I think that's my kids are Gen Z. My teenage.
No, it's a little older than your kids.
I think my boy's 15. I think he is Gen Z. I think he's the end of Gen Z.
Are you 35 to 45 or something like that?
Me?
30 to 45? No, the Gen Z. I think now.
No, that's
Matt,
millennial.
Are you gonna
that's
find
millennials.
that out for us?
That's millennials. Okay, so broadly speaking, Gen X is like early 40s onwards. What people are calling millennials now is kind of up to about current 40, 42-year-olds. Yeah, but going back to like into maybe 30-year-olds. And I think this Gen Z is my kid's age. God, this is boring. From like 14 till like mid-20s. I mean, it's all made up. Yeah, it's so made up. Go on.
According to Wikipedia, it's mid to late 90s to early 2010s. That's going to be
Gen Z.
Gen Z. So just includes my boy. Anyway, what did Gen Z want?
They number one, love the thrill of the races and the speed. Number two, fan of the drivers. 3, fan of the teams. And the newer fans, the completely new fans, within the last 5 years, they are here for the thrill of the races and the speed, fan of the drivers, and the strategy. So basically, that is a reflection of the women, right? If you dive deeper down into it, this says, despite the emotional pull, random remains relatively non-tribal. 61% of respondents follow multiple teams or identify as neutral, finding consistent across past surveys. So 61% are still there for the sport more than a team or a driver.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. That survey wasn't taken in Mexico then, or in Amsterdam. If you take that survey, you know, just around the beaches of Zandvoort, you might get a different answer. But yeah,
it says so in newer markets like the US. 40% of the US new fans identify primarily as fans of specific drivers. 21% of fans say the same about teams. So yeah, I don't know how much you got from that.
No, it's a good sport for that. It's a good sport for saying you can support multiple teams and drivers. So if I look across this season, I'm looking at Hadjar. I'm looking, where did Hadjar finish? Did Tsunoda get off the bottom of the timing screens? And how's Hamilton getting on against Leclerc? And that's my fan. That's across 3 different teams there. I just wanted to say quickly, Matt, I do the opposite with the timing screen. I pause it because otherwise it's doing spoilers. And so when you've got a battle on track, it tells you if an overtake has occurred. And I don't want that. So I actually pause it until it's a little bit behind. And then I can see what's happening on track and then look to the timing screens to catch up. Sorry, continue. Survey things.
You will like this one.
Oh, I'm going.
Live race viewership. That means people watching the live races, right? 86% of respondents watch plus 16 races per season live. 86
on TV.
Of the 100,000 asked, right? 73% watch 20 or more. These are the people listening to podcasts like Mr. Apex. So the strongest viewership in the world is 92%. In which country, guys?
England.
No.
Oh.
It's yellower.
It's yellower. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to go down this route.
Orange.
I don't want to go
it's
down.
Orange.
Right,
it's
okay.
the Netherlands.
Oh, okay. That could have been worse.
Yeah.
When it's Christian, you're on high alert.
I'm sorry, guys. 90% in Brazil and 89% in Italy. In the US, it's 73%, which is still extremely high. So let's go to the DTS effect. Sorry, you have a question?
With the percentages, it is interesting because I track all our statistics, and different results will produce different numbers. If it is a boring race, less people will listen. And so that's interesting. And I wonder if that applies to Grand Prix as well. Like some people might not choose to watch the Monaco Grand Prix or Singapore because they've gone, these tend.
But do you think it's universal what defines a boring Grand Prix? Of course, there is some universal stuff, but it could be from one country. It could be the most exciting race, right? Or the 92% in question here.
I think that some of the existing fans were used to 16 races a year. So to me, F1 should be 16, 17, 18 races a year. Now it's 24. I think a lot of people are being a bit more selective. So they're less likely to cancel the barbecue that they were going to go to. Whereas in America, if you look at NASCAR, there's something like 36 events a year and they only have one break. They only have one
But we were talking about live race viewership, not the rest of the percentages could have taken it or watch it later or whatever.
Yeah. So also we've got the Sky issue in Britain. So a lot of people like F1, but not enough to have a whole Sky package around it. Now, obviously, I comment on F1 professionally. Therefore, I need to have the Sky packages. I need to be watching it live. And that is the only reason I have a Sky subscription. Otherwise, I literally wouldn't have it. So because we've got that in Britain and we don't have F1 TV available, a lot of people will wait for the free broadcast. So Channel 4 have highlights. I think it's Channel 4. And so a lot of people are like, stop. I got told off, and I won't do this anymore. I got told off for putting the titles, like a spoiler in the titles. So I said, British Grand Prix, Hulk Demption. And I wasn't even thinking about the people who won't watch it till later. And then the thing comes up. And so apologies to those people. But I think in the UK, that drags down our percentage. I'd love to see the percentage of people who watch the race at all in any form.
Yeah. They're probably not going to want to give us that number right away, but it's huge. Formula One has always, in my lifetime, been known as the world's most watched sport, apart from the World Championship in football and Olympics. So, but that is also if you combine all the races during a year, right? Back in there. So, what is the most viewed sport, actually? I think at this point in time, Formula One is heading somewhere where it's so big that it's going to beat everyone. And we haven't even talked about all the money in there. Let's get to the next point.
Matt had a quick one in. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to jump in on a little bit that I saw while I was skimming is the way they phrased it is that there are local sports, and they mentioned cricket and football and other football as examples where local markets will have higher viewership. But if you're taking a sport and looking at it across the entire globe, which is what they want to do because it makes them look the best, there's nothing really that comes close to it that operates on an annual basis.
Also, quick point. So I was saying, like, I think the Americans are used to longer seasons. They've always had longer seasons in their sports. Then obviously soccer now is crazy, but the timings of the race have a big influence. So over on Matt's side of the world, it's a morning sport. And so I think it's easier for people to watch a sport in the morning before the day gets really going. And then you don't run into the kids' clubs or taking them to soccer or Cole's barbecue or whatever. So I think that does play an option. It's a beer sport in Europe. It's a coffee sport in America.
But don't you think we're going to see in the coming years, we're going to see some changes to the formats and when it starts in regards to the huge American following, South American following as well? Anyway, that is just me guessing.
The Americans seem happy with it being a sport in the morning.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe actually you're right. Anyway, sorry, Matt.
Move on. Go on. You take control.
Matt, I'm so interested in hearing what Matt has to say.
I know, because I'm so interested about it.
You are.
I think actually if you looked at the numbers, it seems like the largest low-hanging fruit in terms of increasing the total population viewing has to be Asia Pacific region.
Agreed.
And you're right. If they do move to doing more races there, that is going to have a pretty big impact on viewing times over on this side of the international date line. And we see it with races like Australia and China and Japan. Right now, there are not a lot of them. So people will be like, oh, okay, I will get up or I will stay up or, whatever you do to watch this race live. But if like half the season, if it suddenly is like 8 or 9 races over there, then people might be more inclined to not always get up for them. And I think that's going to be something that it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it.
And because there's so many races now, just as far as family credit and spousal credit goes, there's just too many races. So a sprint race does not get priority. They understand that I will miss things for a Grand Prix. Sprint race does not fall into that bracket. And also now qualifying is falling out of that bracket as well. And for me personally, with the way the regs are, it's like, I'm not going to sit and watch every single qualifying session because I know people are going to either set up for the race or not set up for the race. So you don't really get a full pick. It's not like the olden days where, qualifying would settle the race. Qualifying in lap 1.
You should do like a missed Apex apology letter for your spouse that you could just print and put it in his name. Yeah, that would be a good PR thing. Right, well, should I move it on?
Well, I will say that I get to watch more sessions the more patrons we have. So do consider us supporting us. No, literally true. That is literally true. Once we start getting support on Patreon, she started complaining less. Patreon.com/Missed Apex. Thank you.
When she sees the money, Spanner, that is how it works, isn't it?
It does shift the priority of where Missed Apex is. Thank you to our new patrons, existing patrons. Join for a little while, rotate through. Support us every now and then. Join us in the Discord and get an ad-free feed. But anyway, yes, move on. I think we've got another sort of 10 minutes on this. We all free?
Next chapter is called the DTS effect. And okay. I'm going to ask you, the most common way new fans are introduced to F1 is?
Drive to Survive.
Matt?
Gotta be Drive to Survive.
I actually read the survey. So much like our Miami quiz, I am not allowed to participate.
It is word of mouth still, which is kind of surprising, actually. And it's not even social media. Well, maybe social media could go under word of mouth. I saw my friend watching it on Instagram, whatever, but it's still word of mouth, relation, friends, family. And the second one is traditional TV, broadcasting and media coverage, still. The third one only is the DTS effect. And only a mere 10% says they got they were introduced through the Netflix series. So of these 100,000 people who participated in the survey, only 10,000 of them got to know about Formula One from the Netflix series. Anyway,
that's still surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising.
What time frame was this in, though? Because I think like 2018, 2019, those percentages would have been much, much bigger.
How many people have told you, by the way, did you watch that Drive to Survive on Netflix that knows you and didn't know about Formula One before? Not many. It's always been the ones that already knew, more or less. So I think the first couple of years, they got someone there, But it was the first time. Maybe we should talk a little bit about Bernie Ecclestone's era. When back in the days, nothing was allowed. Liberty took over. They allowed social media in the paddock. That changed the game. That is a giant factor. It's not only DTS, but DTS played a big part of that. They maybe were the cream of the crop, right? Anyway, I wanted to tell the number one thing was friends and family, 39%. Among women, it's 46%. Among men was 45%. So what does this mean for Missed Apex? 27% of everyone participating in the survey are listening to podcasts.
Ooh.
Engagement is strong in Brazil and the US. And you keep talking about Spanners, about Missed Apex doing quite well in the US,
Yeah,
right?
our biggest audience is in the US. And I think actually the US is the single biggest country in percentages of F1 viewership. So, I mean, if you counted Europe as one, maybe not, but as a single country. And the effect we had walking around Miami, the effect we saw, was that we would get stopped fairly often. And people would know what we looked like. They'd know our faces, enough to stop us in the street around the stadium. And we had really strong attendance at our Miami live event. And then in the UK, I was walking around Silverstone. I think one person came up to me, but it was right in front of my friends. So I was like, yes, it made it look like we were popular. But yeah, much less. And I think we attract a lower live audience as well. And a lot of the people who came to our live event in Milton Keynes had flown in as well. So we definitely have a much stronger presence in the US, and a lot of people who listen to us as well. It's word of mouth, and so we really encourage people. Just tell a couple of people. If you find out they're into F1, just go, check out Missed Apex podcast, and that is our biggest and only advertising tool. The only time we've really spent money on advertising, initially around Drive to Survive, we used to do it on the release date, and then put it with the keywords. And the effect of that has worn off now. But initially, it had a huge effect.
I can tell you the importance of social media for the people participating here. Everyone plus 65. No, we can take plus 55.
Yeah.
It's not important at all would be 65%.
For social media presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under 18, it's 68% as far as I can see here, where it's very important. So that curve is basically just a rising, right? So it's very obvious who the new crowd is and how they're getting there.
Oh, I got recognized in the wild, just in a cafe by someone who had seen my TikToks. So we are pushing and doing more TikToks. It doesn't feel very natural to me because I am 44 years old, but it's essential to driving us forward and if we want to increase our visibility. And so my tactic is, if I was going to tweet it, instead, just yell it out loud at my phone. You have to do it in a completely different style. But it's at Missed Apex F1 at the moment is our TikTok. And that's another tool where I think, if people share our TikToks, and I did a better job of linking it back to the podcast, that's another key driver. But the landscape has changed because so many more of this generation that you're describing are coming in and they want a certain type of content. And we had to change it a few years ago. We had very waffling intros. And I would now, it's one word, hello, bam, straight into the topics, because the people want to be hooked in. And at this point, an hour and 6 minutes into the show, I know there's been a drop-off. So the sort of people that are still listening. But no, look, I figure, right, in our audience, we've got the 30-minute...
I was going to say, amongst our listeners as well, talking about the panel, there's been a drop-off.
I think, right, this is a Missed Apex in-house thing, is that I think we have our 30-minute listeners and we have the full show listeners. And that's fine, be either of those. So the 30-minute listeners just want the stuff up front for their commute, and we tend to pack all the headline stuff there. And then I figure, if you're still listening 45 minutes, 50 minutes, or now at 59 minutes and 59 seconds, you want that kind of background waffling and you don't mind. But we definitely...
I don't think necessary you can... I work at Denmark Radio, right? I work a lot with people who do these numbers and examine them, and there's a lot of focus on these numbers nowadays. But people tend to forget that it's not all about wanting it or not wanting it, or doing it right or doing it wrong. So most commutes would probably be around 30 minutes.
Yeah, 20, 30 minutes. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
With our race
it doesn't
reviews-
necessarily have to do with how you do miss Apex all the time.
Yes, maybe, but I've definitely factored that in. So, like for a race review, we always start with a big ticket item. We don't just go chronologically. We go, what is everyone talking about mostly? What's the water cooler moment? Talk about them first. And that's when I'm quite tight with how we're talking and pacing. And I do a lot of more hand movements and stuff. And then as we get to 50 minutes in, I'm laid back in my chair. Christian's off on one.
It's poem time. You're right.
Good.
I'm gonna finish this one on the DTS thing with like here's the content format, and then I'm gonna tell you who it's popular with and what the purpose of it is. So social media. It's Formula One social media is popular with Gen Z, women, and new fans.
Yeah.
They want discovery, highlights, and personality. Blogs and articles are popular with age plus 45, the legacy fans, right? They want context, commentary, analysis. YouTube and Twitch are popular with Gen Z and the new fans. They want the video immersion. They want to watch along. They want, Scuffy. They want the sim racing.
Yeah, Stuffy's doing great on that.
Yeah. And then you have the podcasts. It's the Brazilians, it's the Americans, and it's the women, which is, again, it blows my mind in a positive way. They want deeper engagement and they want analysis. Welcome, women. I'm going to do the big, how you doing? And then you have the online forums. That's the Gen Z and for women as well, which is also a huge surprise for me. They want community, peer-to-peer discussions, and we have it right there. And these are the proactive fans participating in the survey telling us this, and they are more than 100,000. That is amazing.
Matt, sorry, you looked like you were on the edge of your seat.
Well, I was just waiting for Christian to make both of us have to go look for day jobs again there for a second.
I know. That was Christian Pedersen that said all those things. You can't believe you just tried to make your voice more attractive. Fine. You're already a radio presenter. It's fine. Your voice is plenty attractive, Christian.
Do you want me to end this survey with just one bit? Yes.
Misery.
67% of the fans surveyed says sponsorship contributes positively
Fascinating.
to Formula One.
Yes.
And if you want, you can download this survey yourself and you can go into depth. But the massive thing here is all the brands. They love the brands.
Yep.
They love all the commercial partners. What is going on? Everything is on his head.
Our generation, well, probably more yours, Christian. It was like you're bowing down to the man.
Exactly.
Like you're just a corporate shill. But yeah, now it's I mean, I was hanging around the Hugo people. Hello, Hugo people. They were great, and I was learning loads from them about like the activations. So they had this artist Sloan do the not only the livery for the car, but also on their shirts, and they did it in the pit wall. They did a live drawing of that, and in the Red Bull hospitality, and people genuinely love that, and the celebrities that brings along that want to come along to that, and then people are interested in the celebrities as well. And I think there was a lot more cynicism about that a while ago. Do you remember that uproar when Justin Bieber turned up with Lewis Hamilton at Monaco? He's not a real fan. Who cares? Boo. Whereas, there's still some booing now, but people are really into it. They're like, what are Hugo gonna do next? And the watches. So I've just noticed. Well, I haven't noticed. It was pointed out to me that the drivers have very particular ways that they show off their watches. They have little ticks that they do, like scratching their face, to make sure that the watch features on their interview, and they stand in certain ways. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. And generally, the fans do not seem to mind. That is just part of it. But in the olden days, everyone was drinking and smoking whatever was written on the side of an F1 car. Why not a fashion brand? Why not a browser or a cloud storage? What does Oracle do?
The things
simulation tools, ANSYS.
Okay,
gotta love it.
I just realized I've done about 5 ad reads for Oracle. I should know exactly what. OCI. I recommend OCI for all your cloud storage recommendations. I use it every day.
I'm just gonna say
the end of that ad run.
The Duracell integration on the Williams car is just
that is
I have a real story about that Would
Go
you
on
like
then.
to know
Yes,
it?
I'd like to know it. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
actually-
I know the story.
They were trying to nail down the Duracell sponsorship when this first started, and Duracell wasn't that interested, and they just went ahead and put it on the car anyway, and that's how they got it.
So,
yeah, it was actually the Williams guys who came up with the idea of putting it there. When they saw it, they were like, "What?"
Yep.
I'm just looking up my Oracle ad reads to see if I can make amends.
trying to save us. Good luck.
No, I mean, it all sounded good when I said it. I just don't understand. I don't understand that world. That's what it is. I'm sure it's a solution to some kind of technology problem. Yeah.
Can I say one last thing? Of all the younger, new Formula One fans in the US, 87% anticipates in going to a race.
What does that mean? Oh, as in they think they're going to be at a race.
Yeah, 87% wants to go to have plans on going to a race. And what is it? 10,000 euros to just get there with the tube? I mean, if I was Formula One, I would look at this and go like, okay, we can chill for the next 10 years. Everything's going to be
The problem
all right.
is all those kids are spending money on AI. And actually, with Oracle, it costs 50% less for compute and 80% less for networking. So they can use that money.
He's a horrible human being, Matt. We need to cut him off. We need to shut him.
Look out. Fine. If you're not interested in cutting your current cloud bill in half, then I'm not interested. That's fine. Oracle.
But you do see that. Like I'm trying to remember. It might have been Silverstone. It might have been one of the other races where they're literally talking about improving activations for the non-paddock insiders.
Yeah.
So for the people who buy the general admission, there is a big push for circuit owners and promoters to provide more and better services for the fans that are not buying the paddock pass as well. And this ties very much into these numbers. This makes it make sense to me now why they are doing that, because the last thing you'd expect people that age to have is the kind of money that gets you a weekend VIP pass.
Yeah.
But they want to come. So you want to accommodate them and make their experience good so they keep coming back. And that's a top line result that I'm surprised you didn't mention. Of all of these fans, something like 85 or 90% of them see themselves following Formula One for 5 years or longer, which is great news for all of us.
Yeah.
The activations are great. It does mean there's more to do and there's more to see when you're at a Grand Prix. Formula E is probably the leader in that. The London E-Prix was just an incredible day. And word of that has spread now. It's been sold out for quite a while, the London E-Prix. And people are on board with it. And I think if teams do it well, so for example, the Visa Cash App one, I think older fans wouldn't have liked that art that was on the car, but they were connecting with a completely different audience that does understand and appreciate that. And they left the broad Visa Cash App logo alone, but added to it. And that will have brought a lot of new eyes through the fashion influencers that Hugo Boss are using to Formula One. So those kind of activations are actually important and bring people in. And if you do something like Chrome did with that McLaren livery, which was just a pure racing livery, that's the kind of thing kids are making for themselves in iRacing and trading paints. You do something, you nail that activation, people aren't going to mind.
Yet no one knows what AlphaTauri is.
It was a fashion brand.
I know, but that's because we are in the missed Apex and we are paid to know. By the way, are we paid?
We'll discuss your salary demands.
As usual, after the show, we talk about it, and then you run somehow.
It's like George Russell. Don't panic. You've got to trust the process. There's a contract definitely coming. But when it comes to knowing all of those things, basically Christina tells us. That's how we know.
Okay.
That's where all of our knowledge on that kind of thing comes from. What else have we got here to wrap up, Christian? Because we are risking bumping into an hour.
No, I think we should just wrap it up here because a lot of numbers, and if I have to talk more about it, I have to give you even more numbers. But the overall, as Matt was just saying, the majority of all these people, like a vast majority, almost 90%, are still here in 5 years. And just being able to know that when you participate in this survey, that means you are so dedicated already that you have no doubt that you're here in 5 years. And that says a lot about the people watching Formula One nowadays. And you can feel it in the grandstands, you can feel it on social media, and you can feel it everywhere, basically. The only place I can't feel it is in old media. They haven't realized it yet.
I think F1's huge and it's in good shape. My worry was that the Drive to Survive era people would have a passing interest in it. Instead, the sport has changed. The way it's presented has changed. I mean, if you're an old school fan that's not interested in social media or the drivers, you can just turn all that off. You don't have to actively participate in it. But F1 has turned itself into something that this new influx of people want. Very, very smart from F1. They've finalized the deal now for MotoGP. So I think you can expect MotoGP to attempt the same kind of things. And look, the thing is, every other sport is trying to do their own Drive to Survive. Has tried to recreate that kind of buzz. But maybe, from what Christian is saying, we are giving too much credit to Drive to Survive and not enough credit to the way Formula One has gone about its business. Thank you very much, Christian Pedersen. You you have a Blue Sky account, but you're also in our Patreon Discord. So you can support us at patreon.com/Christian. /Christian.
I'm going to make that. I'm going to make that. Now you said it.
Patreon.com/MrApex. All the links are in the show notes below. But Christian's there and you can hang out and you can tag him. And as always, we give out his home address in the show notes as well. Go and follow Matt at MattPT55 everywhere. Jump on our TikTok, the TikToks, at MrApexF1 on TikTok. And I'm doing more. If a thing happens, you'll get my instant reaction. Just be yelling at the phone. Some people like it. Go there, and then more personal stuff on my Instagram page. Search for Spanners Ready there. We will see you on Sunday. Me and Scott are going to talk about the future of Formula One, where the regulations should go, responding to some of Mohammed Ben Sulayem's comments about more spec series and going back to V8s. And we also have some stuff from Goodwood, from Stuffy as well, from his experiences there, and all the news that we failed to pick up on today. So until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Mr. Apex Podcast. There we go. Matt, we got away with it. We didn't do anything too bonkers. There's a couple of sketchy moments where I thought, where's he going with this? Where's he going with this? I think
we almost wound up in the harbor at Monaco, but thank goodness we managed not to.